Hi, this is Kristen, and based off of the class discussions that we had last week, I wanted to update my list of the top 10 inventions of all time. So the first item I had on my list was textiles. I thought these were particularly important because came about in 6500 BC and allowed for the production of clothing from woven fabric and cotton instead of from animal pelts. And so it made clothing more accessible, created as a status symbol, and allowed for trade via dyed and patterned textiles. I said second was farming and agriculture because that allowed for the movement from hunters and gatherers to settlements. My third one was money in the terms of a standardized coinage. So not just having a coin and bill currency, but also standardizing that. That allowed for greater trade for services and goods. It removed this idea of coincidence of wants, and that referred to the people who were exchanging wanting or having the same value perceived for a particular object. And so that allowed for greater trade across a larger platform. The fourth one I said was plumbing and running water. This allowed for sewage systems, aqueducts. It allowed for settlements to be placed in areas that were further inland, not near freshwater sources. In addition, it allowed for sewage and wastewater removal so that urban populations could have a healthier environment. The next one I said was printing. So this allowed for greater dissemination of information. When books were no longer handwritten, they could be printed for a larger populace, and I think that also assisted with education as well. I said six was religion. Religion wasn't necessarily invented on a particular timeline, however, I think is important as a means of creating a moral and ethical code for which people followed, and it also created an identity, and I think that might be one of the most important factors in the human race as a whole, and it has driven and been the justification for almost every war that has ever taken place. My seventh one was the wheel and axle. It's one of the 6 simple machines. That was important and has been important for transportation and industry. 8 was penicillin. The improvement in medicine allowed for longer lifespan and a greater percentage of people to make it to adulthood from childhood and not die of trivial bacterial infections. My 9th one was the automobile. I think that allowed for mass transportation of people, goods, decreased travel time, increased mobility, and allowed for a greater amount of people to move to further places. And then the last one I had was electricity and applied application. So what we now consider electricity as energy storage and transportation of energy for, say, the light bulb industry and a whole lot of other inventions.